So you find yourself in this situation here, and you're not exactly sure how to close out or how to guarantee the fact that you'll close, okay? But don't worry, I got you. All right, in this video, I'm gonna be going over all of that stuff, but in order for me to go over all that stuff, number one, you need to sub. And number two, I'ma need you to look at my spreadsheet. How do we use checkmates in Street Fighter 6? Now, what is a checkmate? For those of you who don't know what a checkmate is, right, and just kind of clicked on video, a checkmate situation is generally where you kind of just immediately win and there's nothing you can really do about the situation. So let's say, for instance, instead of pressing light kick here, she decides to press throw. Okay, now if you try to do anything that isn't real and you go for this, she can actually throw you out of it, right? Granted, not really viable in games. Is like 1 in 10 million that someone will actually hit this in game, but it's not easy or not possible for you to do. However, if you decide to do this, now her back is blasted. So how do we use this to our advantage? Okay, so let's suppose we have them in the corner and then we finally knock them down. This is the situation in which we want to use our checkmate. And because they don't have any super gauge down here to bust out with reversal level 1s or level 3s, right? Because of that situation there, that means that there's literally nothing they can do aside from try and throw in the situation, and you're literally just cooked, aka a checkmate scenario. How can we do this reliably? I'm gonna go over the rules of how this works. So like I mentioned before, if you try to use a medium normal into it, right, it can in fact be grabbed, right? These are things that we need to keep in mind. However, it's going to be very hard for them to pull off anyway, so you can possibly be very sneaky with this. But if you want to keep it 100% real and do not want to leave it up to chance, this is how we want to go about it. We can use standing heavy punch, right? General rule of thumb is that if you use your heavy normals, then it kind of works. Unfortunately, loose crouching heavy punch is not one of those things on the list, but you'll find like a cannon crouching heavy punch is actually something that will work. Now, if you did want to keep it real, right, and you wanted to use your crouching medium punch, you're that dedicated to crouching medium punch, what you can use is drive rush crouching medium punch. If you use a drive rush normal, it will work for sure, right? The same thing should work with this option as well, crouching heavy punch, right? But the thing is that if you do this, it's too much. It's just a little bit too much. So what happens here is that there's just a little bit too much plus frames going on. So what ends up happening is that because it's too much, you will not get the wall stun and they'll kind of just roll off the back wall, and you don't want this. So the rule of thumb about this is that if you're going to use a drive rushed normal, use a drive rushed medium normal in order to get the stun. If you're going to use a heavy normal, just use it outright because it's not going to be as much frames going on there, right? And you want to reduce the amount of frames. Obviously, the same thing can be said with your light normals. However, even if you use your light normals, you can still get thrown out of it. So it's something to keep in mind. Okay, this is something you can start using in order to take advantage of your opponent, especially when they don't have any meter. So do we need to wait until checkmate scenarios to use this tech? And the answer to you is that no. So let's suppose Manon is a more unique case, but there's only one other character to my knowledge that has a side switching level 1. So you do have to be a little bit mindful when doing it against Manon in particular. However, but because they have to keep in mind pretty much at all times the fact that this can happen, they can be buffering. So what will happen is that, let's say we go for this and they level 1 us, right? Now they get the side switch, you're in the corner and they have a couple plus frames to boot, right? For specifically Rashid and Manon, this is a scenario you don't want to use it in. However, let's suppose we're in a scenario here where Jamie tries to use his level 1 here, right? Okay, he uses his level 1, and even though he uses level 1, he can't exactly encroach on you, and then you can put him in a scenario once again, and you can just essentially put him in the same scenario again, and once you put him in the same scenario again, there's not really much he can do at that point in time, right? Now, this is all super dependent on how much drive gauge he has remaining, right? We also want to keep in mind how much drive gauge they have remaining. So let's suppose in this case they're just beginning their struggle because the game's been going on for a while now, right? They get hit here, they're put in this situation, and then they die, right? Let's suppose they have enough juice to level 1 me, right? They are successful, they got the level 1 off. However, they're still in a situation that they still have to deal with you at this range, in which you can still go for this, back blast them, blow them up, and then they die. Obviously, I was supposed to press K's instead of P's, but regardless, that's kind of how it goes. How exactly do we fish for this opportunity? Well, if you know the fact that you have enough health to survive level 1, it's generally looked upon with fond eyes to go ahead and go for it, because if the moment they spend it, that's it. You know, that's why you'll see a couple of situations where if an opponent will like max out on their combo and they'll do the maximum amount of damage, but the thing is that they burn themselves out and they do a level 3 combo, it's a very bad situation for you regardless, right? Unless you're like one pixel away from death, that is the only situation where it's a little bit manageable. But if you have like over 10%, and not to mention you're still relatively close to the corner, it is a really bad situation to find yourself in. So it's 100% worth looking into, especially when you're not sure whether your opponent will react in time, right? If you're not sure your opponent will react in time, I see no reason to not go for it, blow their health up, and close out the game easy peasy. These are situations we want to fish for on a consistent basis, all right? Now, with that being said, comment down below anything you have in regards to this topic. Also, I do free coaching, and if you're interested in that, just join the stream on Tuesdays and Wednesdays at 6 p.m. EST. With that being said, have a good one now, and happy checkmating. Peace.